It is fight night in the realignment world. Pac-12, Mountain West. It's like a Super Smash Bros. Brawl out there.
You are Locked On College Football, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in the greatest sport on planet Earth that has a lot of craziness to unpack. Today's episode brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Colorado is a shockingly large underdog against UCF this week. Every Big 12 game pick of Week 5, that's upcoming on today's show. And what's Oklahoma supposed to do right now? What should they be thinking in Norman? We're going to talk about that. But first, the Mountain West and the Pac-12. Look, when my friends and I have a conflict to settle, we take it to Super Smash Bros. I'm a Samus main personally over there. Drop your Smash Bros character in the comment section below. The Pac-12 and the Mountain West, however, are taking it to court, which is not quite as exciting because everybody loves Smash Bros. Because it's one of the greatest video games ever made. Not everybody loves illegal filing. What I love about it is that means this storyline will recede into the background for a little while they sort this out. So Utah State is quite literally the most important move that the Pac-12 has made in the last 72 hours. Because if Utah State had decided to stay in the Mountain West, the Pac-12 would kind of be SOL at the moment. Because the Pac-12 has got 7 members and the Mountain West has got 7 members. And so that means they both have to make a move. And UNLV is reportedly sitting there going, I don't know. We'll see. Kind of a crazy proposition to think that UNLV would rather stay in the Mountain West than go to the Pac-12. Because who would you rather be associated with from a football standpoint? Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State, Fresno State, San Diego State, and then Colorado State? Or what's left in the Mountain West right now? San Jose State, Hawaii, Nevada, New Mexico, Wyoming. These two things are not the same. Air Force is in there, and Air Force is a good program, very high floor, maybe not the highest ceiling, but a very high floor, good program to be affiliated with football-wise. These two leagues, if you're just comparing the football numbers, do not belong in the same camp. They're comparable, sure, but there's an edge to the Pac-12. Boise State and company went over there for a reason. So I'm more than a little surprised the UNLV is not going over there. The uncertainty factor, I think, is one aspect. And the other side of it is Gloria Nevarez, the Mountain West commissioner, is playing this pretty well, where she's taking the exit fees from the Pac-12 schools, or the schools that are leaving for the Pac-12, and using that as a financial incentive to keep schools like Air Force around, to incentivize UNLV to be the flagship university programs athletically for the Mountain West Conference and whoever else they'd be able to add in. New Mexico State and UTEP feel like they'd be pretty no-brainer additions to get back to that 8-conference threshold. I've seen some people in the Twitter sphere suggest, why don't you just merge? I mean, there's some logic to it. That's all I'm saying. It could work. That's not going to happen because now there's a lawsuit. And the Pac-12 is saying, hey, you know these exit fees you have that are making it tens of millions of dollars, like in the 50 to 60 range, more expensive for us to take these schools under an agreement that we signed, but that we really don't like right now? It's reminiscent of the Florida State Clemson ordeal, where written into the grant of rights in the ACC deal is you're going to be in this league until at the very least the look-in clause in 2027 and through 2036. And Florida State and Clemson are saying, yeah, you know, we know that we signed that. We're not denying that we did that. We just don't like that. We don't want to do that anymore. So we want that to go away. We just want that to be completely null and void. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I can figure out, even if I read the legal documents, that I have an idea of how a judge or a jury or whoever is going to rule on the matter. So this is going to go into the courts. It could be there for weeks. It could be there for months. It is not overstating things to say that the fate of the Mountain West hangs in the balance. Because if the schools can leave without a poaching penalty and only an exit fee, those are two separate things. If it's only an exit fee, Well, then it can get a lot less expensive for Mountain West schools to head over to the Pac-12, which after they struck out adding American Conference schools is suddenly something very much in their best interest, because I don't think they would go and reach out to Texas State or North Texas, even though it might make some sense to do so, because they wouldn't necessarily have a travel partner. Are you really going to go add Rice to be their travel partner? I don't think so. And I've seen no reporting indicating that that is an option for Oregon State, Washington State, and the the 5 schools now. Utah State officially joined the Pac-12. They've got a 17 conference. By July 1st, 2026, it better be 8, or this is not going to fly. And the Mountain West has to get to 8. And it feels like they have more options readily available. And the best option for the Pac-12 at the moment is to go get more Mountain West schools. But if that becomes significantly cheaper, well, then you would need 9 votes in the Mountain West Conference, where the 4 departing Pac-12 schools are still officially members right now. You need 9 votes there to dissolve the league altogether, and then there's no poaching fee. And if that comes together, dream scenario for Oregon State, Washington State. Dream scenario. Because then you get the best of the Mountain West. You don't have to take the schools that don't provide as much value, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And then you can have the war chest you got from the departing 10 Pac-12 schools that are in the Big 10, ACC, and the Big 12 right now, and you can have more of that for yourselves. And you can certainly pay some exit fees or some fees somewhere, lost it, like there's money to be spent, but there'd be a lot more money to be had if suddenly the Mountain West just poof, went up in smoke and everyone was left scrambling to find their hope. Now, there was a raging debate online about the hypocrisy, allegedly, of Oregon State and Washington State for going and pilfering the Mountain West and not taking schools that don't provide as much value when they were upset when that was done to them. You can think that that is a Hippocratic move. You cannot, with a shred of honesty, say that what Oregon State and Washington State are doing is in the same camp as what OU and Texas did to the Big 12 or what USC and UCLA did to the Pac-12. That these things are not the same. I know they look the same on paper, but intent matters. If I have a baseball bat and I look you in the eye and I decide to whack you in the ribs and I break your rib, that's a lot different than if I didn't see you behind me and I swung a baseball bat and I suddenly hit you in the ribs and injured you. Neither one of those things is good. Neither one is a positive outcome. You can be upset at the state of your rib cage here. You can't pretend, unless you're just trying to be dishonest for attention or whatever, which is I think what one guy was doing who I responded to. I'm not even going to mention his name. You can't pretend to be honest and have that particular take and say, oh, well, they're just doing the exact same thing. They're doing it out of necessity. USC, OU and Texas, they didn't need to go to the SEC. They wanted to. And greed is driving that. USC and UCLA, they didn't need to go to the Big 10. They wanted to. And greed is driving that. You can understand the financial component that exists for those schools and the similarity between the two actions because it's readily available. To prescribe the same motives and malicious intent to say that Oregon State and Washington State want to be doing this is wildly dishonest. Wildly dishonest. Cannot say that in the strongest possible terms. I just, people sometimes just bug me. And that bugs me. Are they doing the same sort of thing? Yep. But are they doing it because they want to or because they have to? Those two things, not the same. Absolutely not the same. So it's on like Donkey Kong. And look, when I face Donkey Kong and I'm Samus, I tend to win. So I don't know which side's going to be Samus and which side's going to be Donkey Kong in this particular fight. But this is going to go into the courts and we'll address at a later time. Let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments. This is a rhetorical remark because you all do that anyway. The Big 12, every single game, we're going to pick that next. Colorado is a shockingly large underdog against UCF. But why? I don't know, but we're going to answer that question next. It is time for my Roy Player of the Week. Roy is a new platform that lets fans make contributions directly to their favorite athletes. Download Roy for iOS or Android and enter referral code LOCKEDON, and you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash, no purchase necessary, void where prohibited. This week, we have selected Kalel Mullings over at Michigan, the running back who went crazy against USC, including the game-winning touchdown in what was just an outstanding college football game. Not the game that the Trojans were hoping for, but saved Michigan's season for the moment. He is your Roy Player of the Week. If you were impressed as we were with this performance on Saturday from Mullings, you can show him some love too. Guess what? Just hop on Roy, throw in a few bucks. If everyone pitches in just $10, it adds up fast for Mullings or whoever you want to support. Now you have the chance to show your appreciation for Kalel Mullings and his standout performance this week, as well as what he'll continue to bring to the Michigan program this season. And you can do this for any college football player. Get off the sidelines and into the NIL game with Roy. And then once you check that out, you know where you should go? LinkedIn Jobs. Why? Well, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% over that number of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. Why? On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. If you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're simply looking in the wrong place. 2.5 million small businesses are using LinkedIn. They know what they're doing. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I imagine there's a contingent of individuals who sport the Ralphie-themed Buffs gear not happy with the betting line this week. That's Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12. Knights by 14.5 in Orlando this week, Drake. Look, UCF should be the favorite here. They're at home. I think they're a more complete team than Colorado. Over 2 touchdowns, what am I missing?
Yeah, I want to first reference the sunburn that is a little. I'm more burnt than the Baylor secondary on that Hail Mary, which, by the way,
I was going to say if Rudolph's nose became his whole face, but whatever works for you, man.
Let me say this. I have grown in the last week to like Colorado more and more. The offensive line's bad, putrid, still not very good at the whole football thing, but I think the defense is so much improved from last year that Colorado deserves more respect. However, Spencer, if they lose that game to Baylor, and Baylor at one point looked like it could run away with it there toward the end of the first half, they built a double-digit lead. You thought, the Bears look really good. Had that been the case, or Baylor just holds on to win, if that field goal goes in with a minute and a half to go and the Bears take home a 10-point, 3-point victory, this line doesn't look as crazy. But Colorado, skin of its teeth, gets it done and wins. I think the defense is so much improved that I'm a little interested myself as to why it'd be 14 points or even up to 15 points. At
14 with a hook. It's not just 14, Drake. This is 14 with a hook. Colorado could lose this game 38-24. And you're telling me they'd cover. Maybe this is a Vegas nose and we just don't know, but this is the first Big 12 game we're picking this week. We're going to pick all of them here. I'll go first. I think the Knights are winning the football game. Thought that before the year. I still believe that to be the case. 31-24, UCF wins.
I also believe that UCF wins this game. I don't think there's a way that UCF covers. I believe it's more likely they cover than Colorado wins outright, but I still think Colorado keeps this one tight. They've got 2 Heisman Trophy candidates who have been Heisman level. Give me UCF 34, Colorado 24.
I actually just changed my mind. I want to give both teams an extra touchdown, 38-31. I think the Knights win in Orlando. A Big 12 championship game berth is on the line in Manhattan, Kansas this week. Yep. I do not believe either of these teams, if they lose, go 0-2 in Big 12 play, are going to be able to run the table, and you're simply not getting into the conference title game with 3 losses. It just doesn't – I don't even know the last time that happened. Maybe it has, and I'm just being ignorant here, but I think Kansas State bounces back here. I have not sold my stock on those particular Wildcats. Arizona's about kind of what I expected them to be, and we'll get to them in a moment, but Kansas State is favored by 4.5. This line has fluctuated in there. Give me the Wildcats 31-20.
I think that Kansas State will win this game, and one of the biggest reasons I believe that is because Locked On Oklahoma State host Cody Stovall said so. And Kansas State takes this one. Defensive kind of fall apart there late. 38-28. Give me the Wildcats to cover.
Yeah, they were impressive against the Wildcats on their home field once before, and I think they will be impressive against the Cowboys as well. Change the mascot. I don't know how much the outcome really changes there. But how about this one? Number 22, BYU, 1-0 in Big 12 play against 2-2 Baylor, looking for a bounce back. Is it a trap to bet Baylor -3.5 according to our friends at FanDuel? I don't believe so, Drake. I am taking the Bears in this spot to disrupt BYU's mojo. They're coming back home. I think they're ticked off. Aranda's coaching for his job. He probably needs at least 6 wins to get there. I think this will be one of them, and a big win for Baylor here in front of the home crowd. Give me Baylor to win. Low-scoring football game, 21-15.
What home crowd, Spencer? BYU might outnumber the Baylor fan base in this one. After last week, Dave Aranda called it the victory cigar, his defensive play that allowed a Hail Mary to tie it, Colorado to win. There is not a more demoralized team in the Big 12 right now. Dave Aranda is effectively Bernie from weekend to Bernie, so just kind of propping him up on the sideline for the next 8 games. Baylor falls, keeps it competitive because of a very good defense, but the offense has been lackadaisical at best. Turn it over 2 or 3 times. BYU gets the win, 28-17.
No arguments here that the Baylor offense cannot afford to turn the football over against that BYU defense, which is very good. Jay Hill is doing a magnificent job there in Provo, but I'm sticking with my weird score prediction, 23-15. TCU goes to Kansas. Look, TCU, you're wearing their hat here, Drake. I want to like TCU. I thought Andy Avalos was the right hire defensive coordinator, but you're right. This defense is an abomination. They are LSU 2023, but in the Big 12. I legitimately believe, I am not just saying this, Drake, if TCU had an average defense, you can make the USC comparison from last year as well. If they just had an average defense, I think they're in the Big 12 championship game this year. I am that big of a fan of Josh Hoover. So once again, I will refuse to learn my lessons here. Nah, screw it. I'm not picking TCU again. Kansas wins the game 28-24.
TCU ran the ball for 65 yards last week on 32 carries. They only ran the ball 17 times the entire game against UCF 2 weeks ago. They don't even try to establish the run. Kendall Briles is almost as much of a problem as Andy Avalos is right now. And when 2 coordinators can't get the job done, your head coach isn't giving you a lot of help either. Give me Kansas in this game, 31-13. Jayhawks roll over TCU.
Iowa State travels to Houston. I refuse to pick Houston in the 2024 season against a Power 4 team. I think the Cyclones roll to their first Big 12 victory of the year.
Iowa State by as many points as humanly possible. Houston by negative points, if that's a thing we can do.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely allowed because this is my show, so I can decide what is and is not allowed. Last 2 games, let's start Cincinnati, Texas Tech. This one interesting. So Texas Tech, I think a lot of people kind of wrote them off after the Washington State game, and Washington State is a top 25 capable team. They have a chance to prove that again this week when they go to Boise State in a classic Pac-12 showdown? Is that what we're calling that now? I don't know.
Sure,
you tell me.
Whatever.
But I think for Texas Tech, they righted the ship against North Texas. They played well against a solid, not great, but solid Arizona State team last week. If they're going to be that dark horse Big 12 title contender, remember, they don't have a Big 12 loss yet. They just have the one embarrassing loss where they got blown out against Washington State in Pullman, which is a tough place to play. I think they've settled things down, certainly at home. Cincinnati at 3-1, I didn't necessarily think they would be there at this point in time. 1-0 in the Big 12, I think that changes this week. Give me the Red Raiders 31-27.
Yeah, Cincinnati has beaten Towson, Miami of Ohio, and Houston. The best team in that 3 is Miami of Ohio, and that's not very good from the strength of schedule standpoint. They fell to Pitt in heartbreaking fashion. I don't believe in Cincinnati yet, though Corey Kiner and Brennan Sorsby are better than expected. We knew Kiner would be good, and he's what they've got, the bell cow of the offense. I don't know if it's enough in love against a Texas Tech team that's this hot. Jones AT&T will be rocking in a night game. There's no way Cincinnati wins this when they fall to 3-2. Texas Tech is 4-1, and all of a sudden, once again, we're talking about the Red Raiders being contenders. Editor's note, add a touchdown to TCU. Their offense is good. 34-20, Kansas beats TCU. Thank you.
Okay, that's completely fair across the board. I had an amendment earlier, so I will allow you to do so as well. And I like that Red Raiders home crowd. I think it is an underrated home environment in the Big 12 when they get rocking down there. They're rocking. They love their football, and I think they have a good, I don't know if it's a great team yet. I do think they have a good team, and the Arizona State game last week really proved that. How about this one? A rematch of what was a drubbing for the Utes last year in Tucson. There's a very different Arizona team. They're more than a 10-point underdog in Salt Lake City. I cannot get behind Arizona in this matchup. Isaac Wilson, Cam Rising, I don't care. Give me the Utes at home. Cam Rising will determine whether I feel like they cover. But let's say he doesn't play. I'll go Utah 24-13.
Utah has allowed 52 points all season long. Like TCU allowed 66 points in a full game last week. Utah has played 32 quarters and allowed 52 points. When you saw that Arizona only put up 7 against Kansas State, Utah is about to do, after what happened last year, unspeakable things to the Wildcats. I know Kyle Whittingham. He wants to win this game by as many points as humanly possible, and he will. Give me Utah to win it 41. The offense comes alive against an Arizona defense that wasn't great a couple weeks ago. 41-17.
That's every Big 12 pick of the week, and that's Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12. Who better to do such things with? Drake, I appreciate it as always, and I'm so unprepared for however you're going to end this segment as usual.
Yeah, who better to do it than, well, Kevin Borba. You can do it with Kevin Borba, but me. I'm a great backup.
Yeah, you're number 2. You know, some people are vice presidents, and that's okay. I have a question for all of you out there. This is pertaining to the next segment, of course. What is Oklahoma supposed to do? What are they going to do? What should they do?
Rejoin the Big 12. Rejoin the Big 12.
Yeah, they should do that. That's coming up next. Before we get to Oklahoma, let's get to FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, guess what? In addition to college football, you can get everything you want for the National Football League. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. You know why? Because they're the best. They're just simply the best. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You just heard Drake and I pick every single game in the Big 12 this week. If you think we're insane, or if you think we're geniuses, you can bet with us. You can bet against our picks. Do whatever you'd like. Just make sure you do it over at FanDuel, of course. And you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. That's the place to go. FanDuel.com. What does Oklahoma do? I am called back to a line that Rabbit dropped an 8-mile. What am I gonna do? That's Jay Smith, Oklahoma Sooners fan, Locked On Sooners, in fact, joining me here on the show. So Oklahoma fans would like Jackson Arnold, I think, removed from the state of Oklahoma based on how they reacted to my segment the other day. They want no part of him as a quarterback. And look, I understand he hasn't played very well, Jay, but you and I were talking before we hopped on to record. He does not have a fully healthy Oklahoma offense around him. I'm not sitting here and saying that he looks great. I just think it's too early to bail on a guy that has not played that much football in his career, and also has not had a healthy offensive line, has not had all of his receivers there the whole time, and the offense just looks disconjointed. I don't think that Hawkins is an automatic quick fix.
No, and I agree with you there. I don't think he's an automatic quick fix, but I think the one thing you notice the difference between what Michael Hawkins did and what Jackson Arnold did was Michael made decisions. Like, he actually made a decision and did stuff. That was kind of the problem we saw with Jackson Arnold over the last 3 games. Now, this is the funny thing. For me, I'm trying to figure out what happened to the Jackson Arnold from Arkansas State and the one from Arizona. Granted, Arizona didn't work out the way he wanted, but Spencer, look at it this way. If Jalil Farouk doesn't fumble the ball and it gets returned for a touchdown, Oklahoma's about to go up 31-13 against Arizona. That game is done at that point. And so in that game, as it starts to just snowball and just fall apart for us, that's when you start to see the anxiety get them, right? And I totally get that part, right? When one bad thing, multiple bad things happen, sometimes a snowball effect and just ruins your mood, right? But for him, as the season has gone on, it just doesn't seem like he just wants to make a decision. Like the call, and Brent Venables talked about this in his press conference. The call is this, and he does the opposite. And it's like, well, why would you do the opposite? Like, why won't you make the decision of the wide open piece? That's kind of why I see it's time for Jackson Arnold to sit. If anything, let him try to figure out what's going on in his mind that's thrown him away from the Arizona Jackson Arnold to the product we're getting today. But you're right. Michael Hawkins won't be an instant fix, but he may change the dynamic of this team. It may spark the offensive line to get their heads out their behinds, even though, like we said before, we talked before in the green room, this is like the 14th or 15th iteration of the offensive line, as in we've had multiple players in and out due to injury. We've had 4 centers since the Arizona game. He's had 4 different centers. So injury bug has kicked our butt, and it sucks because it's only on one side of the ball. The defense, we're not dealing with all the crazy injuries. It's only on offense, which is the wildest phenomenon that we got lucky with, but they're all young dudes. So it makes sense. So for us, Hawkins is going to give us someone that's going to probably just make quicker decisions and go, and hopefully it leads to a better offensive product.
Right, we'll see how he fares on the road at Jordan-Hare. And, normally I'd say that the Auburn fans would have their hair on fire, but I think they're a little discouraged down there in Tiger Country at the moment. So let's talk about this Auburn-Oklahoma game. It's the who's going to have a disastrous rest of the season game is kind of how it feels. Because if Oklahoma fans are right and I'm wrong and Jackson Arnold was the entire problem, then okay. But if Michael Hawkins is not a solution, then you have no answers at quarterback, and all you have is this good defense. And frankly, it's kind of similar to Auburn. I think Auburn has a pretty good defense. And Auburn is, wait for it, missing good play at the quarterback position. It's almost like that position matters a lot in this wonderful game of football. But Auburn loses, and they'll have lost 3 of their first 5 games at home to Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Cal. If Oklahoma loses this game, they'll have dropped 2 in a row, and you'll be looking at the quarterback situation, depending on how Hawkins plays, and maybe saying, okay, so there's just no answer here. Is the season done? Is it, September 28th, and we have no hope for our first year in the SEC? That's how I'm looking at this game. Is one fan base is, both feel like they're kind of hanging on by a thread for the 2024 season right now, and the loser of this game is just going to be completely deflated like a pop balloon.
I totally agree with you there. But the difference, though, you see here with Auburn and Oklahoma is, hasn't Peyton Thorne played for like 9 years in college football? Kidding-wise. But no, he's literally had 3 years in Michigan State now.
He's been around for a while.
He's been around for a while. So at some point, you've got to either, piss get out the pot, right? He should be way better than what he's playing as right now. This is not he has regressed every year since his 3,000-yard season at Michigan State. And to me, Hank Brown obviously doesn't look like that dude yet. But the big difference between us is that Oklahoma's still dealing with a true freshman and a true sophomore. We've got a 6-year player that's in the backgrounds, but the goal was to not play him. He can't, Casey Thompson's coming off knee surgery from when he was at FAU. He's played like 9 years. You don't want to play him because you want the young talent to be able to lead this team, right?
Jay, I got to be honest. I forgot Casey Thompson still played college football.
Exactly.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
He's actually healthy, they said, but they don't want to play him, right? It's time to start focusing on also building for the future while playing for today. Like you mentioned, defense. Just looked it up on ESPN's defensive efficiency. Oklahoma's ranked number 10 in the country. The advanced metrics are saying they're a top 25 defense in just about every advanced metric for the most part, right? And that's what we were expecting. This is what happens in a Brent Venables defense over 3 years. What sucks is the offense didn't produce with us. Now, granted, we did not expect to have our top 4 wide receivers all out of injury, with 3 of them most likely done for the season. One of them can possibly come back in about 2 weeks, actually. I think he's 2 or 3 weeks away. That's Jalil Farouk, who broke his foot. He was 6 to 8 weeks out. 6 weeks is Texas. 8 weeks is right after South Carolina. Oh, actually, 7 weeks is Texas, and then
good luck against Texas, by the way. That might not be a fun day.
We'll see. We'll see. You got to remember, it's a rivalry game. When Texas was depleted when they played against us, and we were like number 2 in the nation, we somehow lost. It's just one of those things. We hate each other.
That's true. That's true.
It happens.
Did you watch what Texas did at the Big House in week 2? I watched it.
Oh, I watched all of it. Then I saw what they did to USC, and which told me one thing: Michigan literally has one dimension, and it's all they can do is run.
Correct.
They are not the team that
32 passing yards to win a college football game.
How do you do
32?
that? Dude,
I don't know.
that's it. It's amazing. But this Michigan, Sharon Moore, shout out, Boomer Sooner. To me, going towards the Texas game, which you have to bring me out on the week of that. We'll talk
yes.
more about that, of course. But going this weekend to Auburn, the big thing for us is going to be defense, right? Auburn has 14 turnovers this season. We have a +7 margin. We've already caused 8 fumbles and we have like 2 picks. We had 10 turnovers that we've taken. So in this game, the biggest fear for Auburn is, are they going to keep turning the ball over? Because Oklahoma's going to take it. That's what we do. We take balls from people. The question is, can the offense at least get a field goal this time? Like, this is the thing that pissed me off. We got a fumble at the 5-yard line. The perfect fumble. Gave it right back.
Yeah.
And this is the funny part about that, Spencer.
That's bad, actually.
The play that was ran on that, the decision that was made, that wasn't the decision that was supposed to have been made.
Nope, wrong read. Absolutely, 100%.
You don't get the ball ripped out of your hands like that. You don't. Not at the 5. Come on.
Yeah.
Lay down.
Yeah.
If you're scared, curl up. So, to me, the biggest difference, the thing that's going to happen in this game, this Auburn game is going to matter the most. How many turnovers can Oklahoma get? We got 2 against Tennessee. I bet we get 3 or 4 against Auburn.
You got a score prediction? I'm not ready to drop one yet, but you might be.
It's going to be tough, but I have one. I think Oklahoma. Well, Michael Hawkins scored 2 touchdowns, when he finally came in the game. So obviously he knows how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and take them. I'm going to take this game 21-3 Oklahoma.
Oh,
I think the defense is going to turn it up.
Well,
their goal is to make it.
I think Oklahoma's defense is really good, which I think is a great thing for Oklahoma fans to see, because Brent Venables' defense a couple of years ago was not very good, but right now it looks very, very good. And that Auburn offense is, I'm trying to be nice, but I don't know if I have a nice word to describe the Auburn offense. It's a missed opportunity, shall we say. But a great opportunity as always with Jay Smith. Locked on Sooners. Jay, appreciate it.
Thank you, my man, for having me. Can't wait to come back.
Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.